So today, our presentation is our presentation is about the birth rate decline in westernized countries, such as like the U.S. That's where the book is. So I found this quote and I thought it was interesting for just like a base for our presentation. And it's, in the 21st century, in developed countries today, many women receive educations and earn salaries that are on a par with those of men. The fact that women are no longer socially and economically dependent on men has radically altered young people's lifestyles. A woman can now choose to remain single, marrying only when a man adds value to her life, or when she desires to have children within such a framework. So this, it might be from like a feminist perspective, but it's not like on that part. That's not what we're concentrating on for like our project. But to start the actual project, these are two definitions to kind of clarify what we're talking about. And the first one is like what a birth rate is. It's the number of births in an area per 1,000 of the population in a year. And the total fertility rate is the average number of children born per woman. So like the average children a family has, or okay. So to start, birth rates and to start, I'm going to talk about birth rates and general statistics. In westernized countries, a stable birth rate for a healthy society, thank you, is 2.1 kids, or 2.1, which is the birth rate. And the total fertility rate in the United States on average is 2 kids per woman. In 1980, which is the setting when the book was written, the total fertility rate in the States was 1.8 children per woman. That's an odd number because it's not an even number. So it was lower than a healthy society. And in 2010, 31.4 million Americans live alone, and 20%, so that's 20% of the population live alone. And this contributes to the birth rate decline because they are single and they're not mating. Another quote is, if you look at the 1930s, about 22% of women who began their childbearing years at the onset of the Great Depression never had children at all. Contrast this with the much smaller share, only about 10% of childless women who came of age just after World War II. This effect may be relevant again today. And I thought this was interesting because, like in the book, it's a very tragic event that occurred, and it stunted the birth rate. And the last thing on the birth rate is, these are a couple reasons why a birth rate would decline. And they all are kind of intertwined, personal decision that goes with the freedom to be single and self-provide. And then it also goes along with highly educated women who can make it on their own, and they don't seem it's not their job isn't just to have kids like it used to be. But also high and somewhat similar incomes between the sexes. So it all has to do with equality between the sexes. So women are more free to be their own person, and they're not forced to be a stay-at-home mom.
So in relation to the novel, when Atwood was writing this, during the second wave feminism when it was ending, and it was ending because the Christian rights the influence of Christian rights on American politics was pretty high at the time. So in a way, one can interpret the book as being like a warning to what would happen if religion was taken too far, like what happened in the book when they took the story of Leah and Rachel and they based the entire society on it. And so in the early 1980s, about 3.6 million babies were born in the U.S. per year, and this is a quote we found. It seemed Atwood also had a touch of clairvoyance as well as rereading The Handmaid's Tale in honor of its 30th birthday, and it reveals many of its ideas are finitely enough, still as relevant now as they are then. So the reasons why Gilead was forced to deal with the drop of birth rate because of pollution, chemical poisoning, and radiation, and all of these things. When the people were inhaling it, it caused them, most of them, to be sterile, and they were dealing with decaying fertility rates. And so they decided to, because they wanted to keep up the population in Gilead, so they created handmaids, and being a handmaid, it objectifies women in order to keep up the population, so it reduces them to nothing more but like a tool to get to what they want, which is keep up the population. And the quote from the book is, "Women with viable ovaries who are placed in households of high-ranking officials whose wives cannot bear children."
So our first question is, in real life, birth rates have declined because of gender equality and a woman's growing freedom. Why do you think the population in Gilead has had to succumb to the handmaids?
The price they paid for having Gilead was nuclear war, etc. So they basically gave up the fact growing population to have their control over the people.
Well, the women that wanted kids were pretty elderly. If we look at the case like Serena Joy, she's pretty old and she's infertile essentially. So they needed people in order to get kids, therefore.
Sort of have like a question to you guys. Am I allowed to ask questions back? Like, do we know for a fact if like everyone in Gilead was using handmaids, or was it just the top people in society?
It was, yeah, like Cash says, there's econ wives who they're like they can have their own babies, but usually the people who had handmaids were more the priority people, who were like higher on the social scale.
Okay, so I have like another question. So like, how can we even evaluate if the population had to succumb to handmaids if we have no idea the like percentage of people use handmaids?
Can you ask a question again?
How can we like answer your question if we have no idea the percentage of people in Gilead that uses handmaids? We have no idea. Do we know that? If the majority of people are strong, I like women. What's the point of being powerful?
There's clearly a problem.
There's
You're right.
clearly
We
a
don't
problem
know
when you start
perhaps
using
the specifics relating to the percentage, but the fact that we are resorting to handmaids illustrates.
But maybe that's just a
Yeah.
few people. Do we know how many people?
Yeah, but if
Well,
it's
no,
normal
no,
for them
no,
to use it, then
Yeah.
it's like they know it's not a problem.
I'm just saying, like, I don't think we can answer the
It's
question.
not a problem.
I think we can still answer the question. I think we can still answer the question.
I'd like to hear some answers.
Keep going. Any other responses? Okay.
Okay, so our second question is, it's a little, like, it's more of a closed question, so I'll change it a little bit after. But it's taking into consideration the fact that the book continuously objectifies women and the world is working on no longer objectifying them. Do you believe there are any other reasons in their dropping birth rate? So,
Dropping birth rate down.
sorry, in the book.
Look at the connection between the statements.
Question.
Can you rephrase the question?
So the world
Okay,
is,
so in the book, like, they objectify women, and right now, our goal in like actual world, like right now, our goal is to no longer objectify women and just like to be equals. But in the book, they're objectifying women, like that is a reason like, sorry, they don't actually have, they actually don't really. I just realizing this now. So, is there any other reasons in the, wait, was that the last question?
No.
Okay, we have another question, I'm sorry.
How are we addicted to movement?
No, we're saying we're
Continue.
Okay, according-
Continue, we gotta get this done, go.
So according to history, birth rates tend to drop when a tragic event occurs. What tragic events have occurred, have set off the diminishing
Nuclear war.
Yeah, nuclear war is like the reasons that they have colonies and stuff. They're all sick.
But I have a question, usually like, okay, if there's a war, usually, okay, there's a big drop rate, but right afterward, there's a big boost, but here they're trying to make the boost during the war, why?
They killed everyone off. Like,
Yeah.
no,
Nuclear
Armenian
Natural
genocide.
Resources were gone.
Their village, like, it's only, they have Massachusetts, like.
No, I know it's just a little city, but I mean, like, why are they trying to do it during the war when they know that they're still gonna get killed even if there's a war going on?
Well, it's only their.
I have a theory.
It's just a question.
What
for
I
my
think
theory
is, like, because of like nuclear explosions and stuff, I don't know, maybe that had an impact on how women can conceive babies, maybe
Yeah.
a lot less.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So, therefore, since that happened, right, like, they're not actually trying to make a boost, they're just trying to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Trying to
well,
keep up
you
with
were
that
in the
goal
United
of
States.
Gilead.
It
Michael?
doesn't also have to be
Go ahead, Pete.
a tragic event. Like, there's also the recession where people are making less money. More, if you have more people, you have more people to feed, more people to
Did
money to
not
spend.
mean to do that.
But I mean, like,
Why is it only commanders?
what?
What?
What word was that?
That's a good
Why
question.
do you-
Why-
Why-
What did he say?
Why is it that only the commanders get mandates?
Well, I don't know.
Well,
No, so now, you're right, it's a good question, and it goes right back to
Isn't
power.
it like having a nice
That's what
car
it
or
is.
something, they show it off?
No,
Like, it's, they're trying to flaunt the fact that you have a
because
handmade,
really,
rich.
the realistic, if, you're right, because your question is, if the population is really that low, why aren't they just all doing it in order to get as many babies as possible, right?
So
But
maybe
it's
the-
because they felt like they were, the tragedy is that there was so much, there was such a lack of morals in that old society that they have to bring that back in order to save society. So it's not just about saving society in terms of numbers, but it's, again, through that salvation in terms of that moral rebirth. Does that make sense? And that's why this whole society based on religion has been constructed. Because the old society had deteriorated so much that they needed to bring that back.
But that old society cared so much because they had freedom, right? That's one of the reasons.
True.
So, okay, yeah, if you're trying to get someone to get animals, like, I feel like if you confine them to such this point where even you see Offred thinking about, or any other handmaid thinking about suicide, that's why they have to take the chandeliers off, they have to take all the things off, like that comes to a point where it's not rebirth, the morals is just Christian. Like,
There's definitely an irony in the fact that, that it was those sins and the lack of morals due to one's freedom, and that we as a society took those choices based on free will to perhaps that led to the downfall, but that we've kind of gone like full circle in order to take away those freedoms, and in essence, sadly, the question is presented, why do we even want to live if we don't even have those freedoms any longer, right? Yeah.
But it feels like Gilead is just trying to restart to zero, like in a way, like in the Bible, it basically comes back when they relate to the Old Testament after, and it's like, but it's like they come back from the beginning and they think like it's gonna evolve like it did in the Bible and everything. So it's like an idea of restarting to zero that they're trying to bring, like if nothing happened before.
but, I mean, like, if you take it, if they really wanted it to make us as close to, like, to the Bible, why would it be a sin to rethink of the past? like I guess I get like with what Chloe presented and Isabel, like, oh yeah, they're trying to re-educate the people, but I mean, if the girl's thinking about the past, like whatever, Jenin or Janine, yeah, when she's thinking about her past, about being a servant, she's like, hi, how may I help you, whatever, and they start slapping her because you can't think about that. Like, I don't get how that's a sin. Tip related to the Bible. No,
She
it
was
was just
getting
a
Sodom and
because-
Gomorrah.
No, wait. She was fantasizing about her past,
Right.
right? Well,
But like she has clear mental issues.
No, I know that. I mean, like that's just even reminiscent, like you said, one day flashbacks, or whatever. Why is that considered to be a sin in this society?
Go.
That's not the right, that's not what you're supposed to be remembering. Their society steered away from the Bible, and that's not what they want to remember. They want to, no one actually remembers it, but they want to go back to the religion like far out because he's steered.
Well, even if you're just remembering driving around.
That's like
But
that.
they want to cut off everything, like, it was just like it's stop and start something new. It's not like it continues and it just changes slowly. It's like completely stop it and it changes.
They want to erase everyone's
Yes,
memory.
they want to erase everybody's
Like
memory.
brainwash everyone.
Exactly. Okay, we're gonna have to stop.
Oh.